Thank you very much for your kind introduction, Senator. And I want to say what an honor it is for me to be addressing such a distinguished audience tonight. I am standing here tonight because almost 20 years ago I married a man of integrity. A man to whom decisions come easy because his values are clear. A warrior, a patriot, a man who refuses to keep silent in the face of atrocities, no matter the risks. A man who has for years been giving his voice to hundreds of political prisoners in the Russian Federation. A man who is now facing up to 24 years of strict regime in a Russian prison for treason, as the Russian government calls his pro-democracy activism and his fight for a better future for our country. But Vladimir is also the father to our 3 children. They say that you should lead your kids by example, teach your kids by example. There is no point in giving them long, elaborate speeches with multiple arguments to prove your points. They simply won't hear you. At a certain age, they sort of block you out and you become a background noise. But they do see. Kids watch you closely. They see the way you behave as a partner, as a parent, as a member of a community, as a citizen of a country, as a citizen of a world. They watch you closely and they come to conclusions and they learn. This is why every time I cry myself to sleep because my husband and the father of my children is not there with us as he's supposed to be, but is in a Russian prison facing those 24 years for high treason. This is what I keep repeating to myself like a mantra. This is the father of my kids, teaching them, leading them by example, teaching them to stand up for themselves and those they love, teaching them to never give up without a fight, to face bullies with courage. And to be prepared to risk a lot to defend their principles. Basically, not to lose themselves while fighting the eternal battle of the good against the evil. I've been blessed to share my life with my best friend, my soulmate, the person I actually chose to spend my whole life with. And I'm furious. I'm furious that this regime of murderers and thieves keeps trying to destroy my family by taking my children's father away from them. I know how much this monstrous regime is afraid of courageous voices that refuse to be intimidated. This is why it uses mass repression, torture, and punitive psychiatry in order to silence these voices. While I'm standing here and I'm furious, and I want this regime to know that I will fight back. I will become Vladimir's voice. I will become the voice of over 19,000 people, 19,000 Russians who have been arbitrarily detained across the country since February for saying no to Putin's vile and atrocious war against our closest neighbor. If I need to become a warrior myself, I will. Sharing your life with a person of integrity is not always easy. For such people, there can be no compromises when it comes to matters of principle, which is absolutely admirable, although at times quite trying for those who love them. Integrity, I believe, serves as the foundation of that courage that President Roosevelt described as not the absence of fear, but rather the assessment that something else is more important than fear. Well, I couldn't be prouder of my husband for having that sort of integrity, and I couldn't wish for a better example for my kids to follow. But because it's his night, and I still have some sporadic contact with Vladimir through his lawyer. He wrote something for you, and I will read it. President Bato, Chairman Kamar, Secretary General Katin, members of Parliament, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, it is an incredible honor to receive the 2022 Defender of Democracy Award and a privilege to share it with some of the most committed democracy advocates from around the world who have been its past recipients. I am humbled by your decision, and I want to take this opportunity to thank Parliamentarians for Global Action for your tireless work over more than 4 decades of international engagement. Among PGA's central goals is the promotion of human rights, democracy and peace. Today, none of these things exist in my home country. For years, the regime of Vladimir Putin meticulously and deliberately dismantled the fragile democratic institutions that took root in Russia after the collapse of the Soviet dictatorship. Independent media outlets were shut down, opposition parties were banned, elections were rigged, legislative bodies were turned into decorations. Russia's current political reality is well characterized by the thought once offered by the Speaker of the Duma that Parliament, and I quote, is not a place for discussion, end of quote. We can certainly see this today as our so-called parliament obediently and unanimously rubber stamps all the initiatives related to Putin's criminal war in Ukraine. In Russia, internal repression and external aggression have always gone side by side. But beyond this facade of false unanimity Putin wants you to see, there are thousands of Russians who have refused to become silent accomplices to the regime's crimes. Since Putin's invasion of Ukraine, over 19,000 people were detained by police for anti-war protests. Dozens of us are now imprisoned for this. Lawyers, artists, journalists, priests, politicians, military officers, people of different backgrounds and different vocations who have publicly opposed the war, even at the cost of personal freedom. Each one of them makes me proud of my country, and it is to all of them that I want to dedicate my 2022 Defender of Democracy Award. It has a special meaning for me that this award is presented by an association of parliamentarians. My education and background are in the study of Russian parliamentary history. My country is usually associated with autocracy, and not many people know that Russia's parliament was among the first in the world to vote for the abolition of the death penalty in 1906, or that Russia introduced universal suffrage before most Western nations. And it is my view that the most consequential wrong turns in Russia's modern history came with the rejection of parliamentary government, be it the dissolution of the First Duma in 1906, the forcible dispersal of the Constituent Assembly in 1918, or the choice of the presidential over the parliamentary model in the 1990s. But I'm not only a historian, I'm also a historical optimist. We know that in the end, for all the setbacks and all the tragedies, the arc of history bends towards liberty. And I look forward to the day when representatives of Russia's freely elected parliament can take their seats in this organization, and when we can work together to make the world safe for human rights, democracy, and peace. Thank you very much.